We've been friends for 37 years.
Yeah.
And we're only 41.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So how did you meet?
Life began on a swing set. Yeah, we were 5 years old, and she had just moved to my neighborhood. I had moved there maybe several months before, and it was lonely. I'm an only child, and I'm the youngest of like 16 grandchildren, and they wanted nothing to do with me. So I had no one to play with, and it was just miserable moving from everything you had known in your 4 years of life to, you know, something that was completely foreign. And I noticed this little girl swinging on a swing set across the street, so I begged my father to take me over there so I could meet this girl. And I mean, we didn't even have a choice to choose whether we were best friends or not. And we're 12 days apart in age, so I'm 12 days older than her, and it's like God knew that my heart, my only child heart, needed a sister. So it was like built in, and she lived across the street from me like until like I think we were in middle school, but she was with me every day through our adolescence. So we grew together, and you know, she was that built-in sister that I didn't have. So yeah.
And do you remember, Billie, what it was like meeting her for the first time, or is it all just kind of lore?
I do remember. We actually have a picture of that day on the swing set.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
And so did you remember hitting it off immediately, or was it just kind of, you know, little girls playing?
I mean, it was little girls playing at the time, but like she said, we were together every day. Every day we played together. I was also an only child.
Growing up together was very interesting. It's kind of funny because, you know, every year, you know, you get your teacher assignment, and we were never in each other's classes. And I remember being irritated by that every single year. She's in a different class, I'm in a different class. Occasionally we'd bump into together in the hallways or recess. She was always a very popular girl. She was a cheerleader, even in college. I had behavioral issues as a small child, and I was the type that, you know, always disrupted class. So my mom had to go to conferences every year, and wasn't well liked. She never treated me any differently around other people. Like, I was bullied as a kid. She was always, you know, this is who she is. This is my best friend. So I never felt less around her ever. And that was like, you know, elementary school years, middle school years, high school years. I think we had homeroom together pretty much every year because it went by alphabetical order, if I remember correctly. So I saw her a lot, you know, more in high school. But we had different friend circles, different classes. But we always were together outside of school, and we just grew together. There were seasons of life where we grew apart, and but it wasn't anything major, like no major falling out that like wasn't, you know, irreconcilable. So then we went into adulthood, and, you know, we've been through, you know, marriages, divorces, remarriages, children, her going through the police academy, her going through breast cancer, and you know, everything that came with that, and how scary that was. We just lived every season of life together.
Yeah. And Billie, what was it like for you to see, you know, like you mentioned that you got bullied. What was it like for you to see somebody that you care so much about be mistreated like that? Was that?
Well, it's an awful feeling. And that's why, like, she was my best friend, and I did not let people treat her that way when I was around. Obviously, I couldn't be around always. But I always made sure she knew her value and her worth.
Mm-hmm. So it felt kind of like a protective
Absolutely.
relationship with her.
Yep.
Wow, that's so nice that you had, you know, that person there for you. And
Yes.
so special over your entire life. Because so many people, it takes forever to meet that. So, you know, would you say that you guys were big parts in kind of shaping each other's personalities, having grown up together?
I mean, our personalities are two complete different polar opposites. actually, but she knows me better than anyone on this earth. She knows me better than I know myself. When I go to talk to her, she will be able to answer, she'll be able to respond with what I'm going to say before I say it. That's how well we know each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like our hearts echo off of each other. Yeah, I mean, when you spend that kind of life with somebody, I think you just kind of naturally live together, and you know that person. It's like a well-oiled machine. Her husband had said to her, enjoy that ride, because we drove from Pennsylvania to Tennessee to do this today. And we don't need high maintenance. Like, we laughed the whole time, it was natural. But even if we would have run out of tons of things to say, we'd have been okay. Just being in each other's presence. I think our hearts are just happy that way. And I am well aware that not everybody has that. And that is just one of those rare life blessings. And, if you have that, you hold on to it.
Yeah, totally. And can you guys think of any ways that you might be different if you have never been in each other's lives?
Oh, I don't know.
Her life would be boring if we weren't in each other's lives. She always says she lives vicariously through me.
Totally.
Um,
I'm not impulsive. She is. That's what she means by that. Like, she can make all kinds of decisions, or not. Like, they're not always thought through. Where I'm very, calculated, and I'm very type A, and I'm, methodical down to a science about everything I'm going to do. Even when this came up, the opportunity to do this, she was totally shocked that I chose to, submit our story, because I had to move things around this week, to come down Friday, and I schedule, I'm a hairdresser, so I schedule my clients out 6 and 8 weeks in advance. And of course they were all understanding, but I'm I have to take off, you can't come to this appointment. And she was like, are you going through a midlife crisis? And I'm like, well, if I'm going through one, at least I'm spending it with you. So I do live vicariously through her, because she's just on the edge, man.
And I know that, so I try to call her, because she's the voice of reason. So before I make a rash decision, I usually give her a call to see what her opinion is. I don't always follow it, but it's nice to get advice from someone that I know 100% has my best interest at heart.
Yeah, and it's rare to find that, so many people act in a way that they want you to do what's going to benefit them. So that's really special to have. And so you guys wrote about this Rip to Our 30s photo shoot. Will you tell me a little bit about the origin of that?
So that's a sore subject for me, because I really wanted that, and we got, in my opinion, we got so cheated out of that. We had this plan that we were going to do this photo shoot. She has this great photographer where she lives an hour from me-ish. And she uses this photographer for everything, and she was like, we're doing this. And she's like, we're going to schedule it. We're going to get those black tulle skirts that people get on Amazon, and it's going to be real morbid looking and dramatic. And we're going to do a rest in peace to our 30s photo shoot. And I was like, yeah, I'm here for this. We wanted to do crazy stuff. And then she got
That was because we turned 40 in March, and then in October it was 35 years that we had been friends. So we wanted this whole big photo shoot.
Yep. And then she got diagnosed with breast cancer shortly after we turned 40, and that was one of the scariest times of my life.
We had the photo shoot scheduled, but then I had to have a double mastectomy, so that put a damper on all of it.
Yeah, totally. And so what was that like, hearing about? Obviously horrible, but...
I mean, she told me from start to finish, hey, there was a lump, hey, I'm going for this ultrasound, they want to do this biopsy. And it seemed like it was real slow, and they were taking their time, but then when I realized the timeline, I think it was July when those appointments were happening, and then till September when she actually had that surgery. I even remember certain points. Like, I remember this lady that was in my shampoo bowl when she was like messaging me about it, and I had to put this toner on her hair, and her hair was turning violet because, you know, it was a blonde, and you know, you sometimes use a violet to get it cool. And I remember like thinking to myself, I don't even want to rinse this out, but here it is, like turning darker, and like time was standing still at that moment. And I was like, I'm never gonna forget this moment, like knowing that she has cancer and you don't know what's gonna happen. And I just remember, like, the whole time, that whole year, just praying and telling God, like, I'm selfish, but you can't take her. Like, this is not something that I can live through.
I'm so sorry that is one of the hardest things to
Oh.
hear about somebody you
Oh,
love.
yeah.
But I mean, knowing that, I mean, you can see how emotionally both are getting. Like, what was it like? Did it make it easier for you knowing that you had this person in your corner through something so difficult?
Absolutely. She was one of the first people I called when they called me and told me it was cancer. And actually, the radiologist had said to me that day, when you come to your next appointment with the surgeon, you need to bring someone that will pay attention and be able to take notes and focus. And she's who I took with me, because I knew she would have everything that was said written down, and she did. And we made a pact before I went in. I said, we're not leaving until she agrees to do a double mastectomy, because I'm not going through this again. Like, I'm too young. I'm not doing this. And she said, okay.
Yeah. And what was it like, you know, coming out of that? How did things change after the surgery?
I mean, I had a lot of issues. It ended up being 4 surgeries.
It was only supposed to be 1. Well,
2, and it ended up being 3 to get all the breast reconstruction and everything done, because there were complications with the first surgery, and then I had a hysterectomy after that. But she was there. She's always there.
Yeah, I mean, in going through this difficult time, do you feel like it made your friendship stronger, or you learned anything about each other that you maybe didn't know before?
I think we literally know everything about each other, but it made us tell each other how we feel about each other on a more consistent basis.
Yeah.
She would text me and constantly say, I talked to God and I said, I can't lose you. Like, stuff that people don't say to each other that they should, and they don't realize until it's too late, when they can't say it to that person.
Anything you want to add on that, Mandy?
yeah, I mean, we're both very different, like we said from the beginning. Like, we're complete polar opposites. So, you know, even right down to, I wouldn't necessarily say completely belief, like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, the way I choose to govern my life is a little different than how she does. And so during that time, I would say to her, I told God, you know, I can't do this without you, and that He cannot take you. And I would send her scripture that, like, I've leaned on in some of the hardest times that I've gone through, which was actually then that definitely was up there. And I would say, you know, this is what you need to tell God, like, while you're struggling. Like, this is the things you need to say, because this is facts right here. And I would constantly make sure that I reiterated those things. I definitely feel that we went into it already knowing everything there is to know about each other. I mean, there's never been a question in my mind, any season of life, that we didn't know everything there was to know in that particular season that we can know about each other. But yeah, it solidified a lot of things, because we did not encounter a tragedy on that magnitude until then. Like, yes, we've lost loved ones. We've gone through, I mean, I went through an abusive marriage. She came with my mother to rescue me. And believe it or not, she's actually dated my now husband of 21 years for a brief time. But I remember when I was getting ready to leave my ex, we all knew each other, and my ex-husband actually grew up with my ex-husband. And she called my now husband and was like, do you think he's gonna go crazy when we come to get, like, so like we have gone through everything. And that was a tragedy like no other. Not knowing if you know someone's gonna survive something or how bad it's gonna get when they mean that much to you, that's hard. I could not hold myself together during that several month span. Like, anytime my clients would be in my chair and I'd have like brought it up if they'd ask what's going on, and I'm just very face value about a lot of things, and I would just ugly cry while I'm like doing their hair because like I couldn't talk about it without losing it, because I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it without her.
Just seeing how emotional you're getting, you can see how much you mean to each other, and that's just so special. Even, you know, when tragedy shows you how much somebody means to you, like, that's special in itself. And I'm so sorry you guys had to go through that, but it's amazing to see how much you mean to each other. And so you guys, I see that you've described each other kind of like as soulmates and soulmate sister. So how would each of you describe to somebody how you know that somebody is that person for you?
I mean, there's a love, there's an unconditional love. And there's a lot of relationships in your life that should be unconditional love that are not. And you realize there are conditions on a lot of relationships that you have. The love I have for her and the love she has for me is 100% unconditional. There's never been a question in my mind about that. My heart knows her, and to me, that's the definition of a soulmate.
Yeah, you know, to know that someone is part of you, a part of your heart, part of your soul, and not going anywhere. You just know, like she said, unconditional love. There are so many relationships that should be that aren't, and believe me, I've experienced them. You know, relatives. But when someone can love you at your absolute lowest and ugliest, and even if they don't agree with it, and you have to like take a little step back and kind of have a separation because they can't even handle how self-destructive that season of life you're in is. But knowing that they still love you and there's nothing that's gonna change that dynamic, it just is killing them to see that part of you. That's it. That's unconditional love. Like, knowing that you're gonna have that person no matter what.
With zero judgment.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's really rare. So it is amazing that you guys find, even outside of blood, that you found that is huge.
Yeah.
And just something to be so grateful for every day.
Every day.
And so, what would you guys say is your favorite thing about the other person?
Well, for me, my favorite thing about her is knowing the pain that she has felt from a young age, and knowing that her heart has the capacity to love anybody that gets the blessing of her unconditional love is, your world's changed forever. And just knowing that her heart has that capacity amidst what she's been through and the letdowns she's had. It's been one of my life's greatest blessings.
Mandy has this ability to see the good in everyone and every situation. She's the type of person that will be supportive of anyone, a stranger. She would do anything for anyone. Her heart is so big. She's always praying for everyone. But she's the type of woman that will fix another female's crown. And that's huge to watch that. Women sometimes are difficult. Like, she shows you at face value what you're getting with her. And she will support anyone and lift anyone up.
And do you guys have like a favorite, you know, we've talked so much about so much hardship that you guys have gone through. Can you guys think of like a particularly light and wonderful memory that you have together that might be, you know, something that you can look back on and always laugh about, or just, you know, there's gotta be some happy times in here obviously too. So
yeah, like we have a lot of that. To name any in particular, it's hard to do, but you know, just knowing that there's someone I can laugh with no matter what. Like, no matter what.
I mean, we've been on so many childhood vacations.
Yes.
We've been on cruises together. We've, even when I went to pick her up from her ex-husband in West Virginia, I mean, once I had her in the vehicle, then it was different. It was relief. It went from a sad, terrifying situation to a good experience.
Yeah.
And then our trip here, it took us 14 hours because we stopped 7 times, but we laughed the whole way here.
Yeah.
And do you guys have any words of advice for people on, you know, how you can have such a meaningful friendship with someone, like how you have to treat somebody else to get to this level that you guys have gotten to?
Yeah, so, you know, with a good dynamic, with a good relationship, it requires nurturing. But we were just talking about this last night before we fell asleep. Like, love is work, but it shouldn't be a striving. Like, it's investing in the other person and really, you know, being able to put yourself outside of your differences and just meet them where they're at and love them where they're at. And, you know, it just requires an understanding and a nurturing and, you know, sometimes a death to yourself, like, just so you can be there for what they need at that any given moment.
Anything to add, Billie?
I think the biggest thing is respect. I mean, we're opposites, but I respect her life and her values and everything she stands for, and she does the same with me.
Mm-hmm.
Zero judgment and 100% respect for each other.
And honesty. I think that's important too. Like, for instance, last night, you know, she's saying about how she's an Aries and, you know, whatever. This is just an example. We were out to dinner and she's talking about all the characteristics of an Aries. And of course, that might be outside of, like, how I believe per se. I don't follow horoscope, whatever. So I'm like, we'll agree to disagree, and it's a personality trait list. It's not what it looks like on paper. And she disagreed with me, and it's fine, but, like, we looked at those personality traits, and then I even looked up Pisces, which is what I am, even though I don't follow that, and I'm like, characteristics, and I'm like, I meet some of these too, and you know, we can laugh together and celebrate our differences and respect each other, and we don't have to compromise my views, her views, whatever. Like, we don't fight about it. Like, it is what it is. That's who she is. That's what makes her who she is. This is what I am. This is what makes me who I am. But we love each other anyways, and we can live our lives together.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add? Beautiful. And so I just have one more question for you guys.
Sure.
Which is, if you were gonna name this video and your friendship story in like 3 words, I know it's a hard one, but I've been asking everyone, sorry.
It's okay.
What would you name it?
Oh my word. If we could name our relationship, it would be Unconditional Love Started from a Swing Set. Life. It began on a swing set, and it was constant. You are constant. It doesn't matter what season we're in. I know you're either gonna be there, whether it's shotgun or in the back of the room. And if it's in the back of the room, my eyes are searching for yours over anyone else. Your presence is what I'm gonna be looking for, and I know my heart is always going to receive the unconditional love and support that it is seeking. You are a lifetime. You have taught me that I can have more than one soulmate and that it doesn't have to look like what societal norm deems that soulmate to be. Your presence in this world makes my heart happy, knowing that there is a human being that is going to love me no matter what, even when I'm unlovable. That makes me feel a warmth in an otherwise often cold and dark world. We have so many miles behind our rear view. Every single mile is a memory. I will never regret any of it. The good, the bad, whatever. I love it all. We have literally lived our entire lives together. Physical miles have never meant anything. Distance between us, time in between our times together, means nothing. You are one of the most beautiful souls I have ever known. Anyone who experiences love from you is truly blessed. You straighten the crowns of others while you yourself are hurting and your crown is broken. Never ever forget how amazing you are, and if you do, I'm always going to be right beside you to remind you. Thank you for loving me through every season of our lives. I can't name them all. It would take a lifetime, but I'm forever grateful to know there's a heart is as amazing as yours connected to mine. It makes this world a better place. You make this world a better place just by being you, and I love you.
So ironically, we wrote these before we went in there, and we kind of flipped what we said about each other. Like, I've always said that a soulmate isn't necessarily a spouse, that the actual definition is a unique, deep connection based on mutual understanding and acceptance. Which is why I tell you all the time you're my soulmate. I've never had to worry about being judged from you. Even though we're complete polar opposites, there's no one on this earth that gets me or understands me and supports me the way you do. The reason I love you so much is that there's never been a condition on our friendship. There's never been any judgment. There's never been any jealousy. there's never been a competition. It's been 100% love. You know me better than I know myself. And I know that I can tell you anything and there will be no judgment. Nothing but support, prayers, and love from you in return. So that's why I say you are the true meaning of unconditional love. What I admire most about you is your ability to see the good in every situation. You are the most supportive, caring, loving human being that I've ever had the privilege to be around. Anytime anyone falls, you are the one standing there waiting to help them up with no questions asked, no judgment, nothing. You are an amazing human being, and I hope you realize how amazing of a human being you are. I am so thankful to have you in my life.